Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast.
Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. As you can probably tell, I'm fighting off my first official cold of the season and just got my voice back the other day, so we will keep it a bit shorter today for you. Joining us to talk Michigan hoops is beat writer Andrew Kahn from MLive. First, some news and notes to get us rolling. Tonight we have Purdue at home, then Ohio State pays a visit on Saturday to Chrysler. Then we head out next week to Iowa and Wisconsin. We are 6-5 in the Big Ten now with 9 games left. According to Jerry Palm and other analysts, we need to end up at least 4 games over 500, which would be a record of 17-13 if we hope to get an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. It seems like a long shot right now, but it is doable. My guest today says if you look at the offensive numbers of this Michigan team, they really aren't that bad. Inconsistent, yes. The defense, on the other hand, is ranked as one of the worst in college basketball this season. He says that needs to change if Michigan has any chance of making a run at the NCAA tournament. With us next is beat writer Andrew Kahn from MLive. So stay with us. Here with us on our game day segment this week to talk Michigan basketball is beat writer Andrew Kahn from MLive. Great to have you with us, Andrew.
Yeah, good to be on, Mike. It's been a while.
It sure has been a while, and boy, oh boy, is it busy right now with the schedule that Michigan has to deal with the rest of the way. Tonight, we have Purdue at home, so obviously we're recording on Thursday morning. Then on Saturday, Ohio State is in town. Then Michigan on the road next week at Iowa and Wisconsin. That is a brutal but pivotal stretch of games, isn't it, Andrew?
It really is. It's kind of turning into a math problem here for Michigan, as I've written about and will, I'm sure, continue to write about over these next several weeks, unless things take a complete nosedive. Michigan is on the NCAA tournament bubble, and life on the bubble is stressful, and it puts a lot of pressure on your team to accumulate wins here late in the season, and that will not be easy. Given the opponents coming up, and happy to talk about kind of what we think they need to do. But you're absolutely right. This is a brutal stretch. I mean, Purdue has been one of the best teams in the country all year, but especially right now is playing like perhaps the best team in the year of the best team in the country. With Gonzaga maybe staking a claim there, but Ohio State is again one of the better teams, and if you look at just these net rankings, and Iowa and Wisconsin the same, and they're on the road. So yes, absolutely brutal, but very important stretch for Michigan coming up.
Oh, it absolutely is. And the way Purdue has been playing, again, we're recording on Thursday morning. It's tough to see Michigan getting a victory there, but last week in West Lafayette, I thought that was a much better performance than I anticipated. So it's going to be possible at home. And then what do you think about the Ohio State matchup on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Purdue. I mean, their defense is such that they're vulnerable there. And, it's hard to beat them in a shootout since they have the top offense in the country. But, you get some of your threes to fall, some of theirs rim out, and, you can see it being a game close like it was in West Lafayette. But yeah, as for Ohio State, this will be one of, 2 matchups here. To close the season. They just had a very tough loss just last night, Wednesday night, at Rutgers. Rutgers making a habit of handing teams difficult losses on their home floor. I think Rutgers closed that game on a 10 or 11-0 run to win by 2. Other than that, they had been playing better. They had won 4 or 5 coming in, with the only loss being, a loss at the buzzer to Purdue. So yeah, Ohio State, overall 14-6, 7-4 in the Big Ten. They're a very good team. I don't think they're one of those necessarily Final Four contenders that the Big Ten might have, but they look like a second weekend team potentially, and a team that will be very difficult to beat.
And after this 2-game home stretch, it's back on the road. And when I look at these 2 games, Iowa and at Wisconsin, those are just 2 places that have never been kind to Michigan. And this year, that is, if we get a split there, that would be, I think, more than enough, wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely. Again, as you start to look, at what Michigan needs to do. It's not about, which games they win so much as just getting to a total that equals 17 total wins and then 13 losses, because that puts you at 4 games above 500 heading into the Big Ten tournament and gives you a chance to split there in Indy and maintain that record of 4 games above 500. And why do I use that number? Well, my pal Jerry Palm at CBS Sports has looked into this much closer than I have and tells me that is pretty much the benchmark for teams to get an at-large bid. There's no hard and fast rule with the selection committee, but that's just what, history has told us. If you look at teams' records, and there are very few exceptions. Now, one of them is Michigan State just last season, which was only 3 games above 500 and was chosen. But, as Palm noted, last season was a little wonky. Teams did not play their full complement of non-conference games, and even games in conference, got canceled and never made up, as Michigan fans know well. So it skewed the total numbers a little bit. So, before that, it had been 20 years. It was 2001 that the last team got in that wasn't at least 4 games over 500. And they were, they had played one of the hardest schedules, honestly, in the history of the modern era. So Michigan has not done that. And therefore, just a couple good home wins and mediocrity across the rest of the board isn't going to get it done. So I think they need to go 5-4 to finish this thing. And, that's possible. They're 6-5 so far. So you're like, all right, just kind of maintain that pace. Of course, the difference is they've already played, 2 games against Nebraska. They've played, Minnesota and Rutgers and Northwestern and Maryland and Penn State. And these teams are some of them I mentioned they're fine, but they're not Purdue. They're not Wisconsin. They're not Illinois. The competition really ramps up here. It's pretty much Rutgers at home and then just a gauntlet for Michigan. So every single team, I mentioned the NCAA's net ranking. You got Rutgers at 91. Everybody else, the remaining schedules in the top 27. Everyone else is in the top 20, in fact, except for Michigan State, which is the team that's fallen to 27 with their recent poor stretch. So this is a tough task, but they can do it. I don't think it's about necessarily getting this one or that one. It's about just getting that total up to 5-4 to be therefore 11-9 in the Big Ten.
Absolutely doable. You're right, Andrew. But for most of the year, this has been a team that has struggled for consistency on both ends of the floor. To be quite honest, very hard to watch on the offensive end a lot of the time. What does this team, or what can they change at this point in the season that's going to help them pick up these wins?
That is the thing, Mike. They need to play better than they've been playing. So we can talk about how it's doable, but given what we've seen so far, how likely is it? I don't know. I'm with you on the offense being at times, difficult to watch, as you said. It's not that free flowing ball movement that we've saw from last year's team, for example. But overall, the numbers, if you look deep into it, offensively have been okay.
Mm-hmm.
Their efficiency is 3rd best in the conference. It's top 25 overall when adjusted for competition. Citing KenPom.com for those numbers. It's the defense that's been the problem, more near the bottom of the Big Ten and in the hundreds nationally, and that's really what's been the problem is getting consistent stops when they need it. As much as the 3-point shooting has gone up and down, overall it's a decent number, and they have one of the best scorers in the country in Hunter Dickinson, who is contributing to some of their the games they shoot well from 3. He's often a part of it, and obviously we know what he can do inside. So at the end of the day, they still find ways to score enough to be a good team, certainly an NCAA tournament team. It's getting stopped. So I think that's the key is improving on defense and playing more like they played for those final 24 minutes against Penn State, as ugly as it was on both sides, than it is playing, what you saw from the first 16 minutes when it was wide open threes and blow-bys for layups from Penn State. So, yeah, I think, you saw them make steps in those areas during their win streak. That's what they all said, was that it was all about, turning defense into offense and making things easier on their offense. So that's what they're going to need to do. But, this isn't the NBA. You can't go out and make trades. They're stuck with who they got, for better or worse. And I think that's what it's going to take. It's just a better effort and execution, for 40 minutes on that side of the ball, to turn things around.
Oh, absolutely. And as you mentioned, the defense dropped to 111th in adjusted defensive efficiency after that Penn State game. And when you look at that schedule of 5 ranked teams coming up in the next 3 weeks, wow. That is, you're right. You look at the offensive numbers, they really aren't that bad. Consistency is the problem on offense, it seems, too. But the defense, the effort just has to ramp up.
It does. And, I mean, I don't know how you do that. I mean, I got an email from a reader recently talking about, their toughness. They just didn't see it in stretches against Penn State and, in stretches all season. And it's a hard thing to quantify, I guess. But I don't know. It's kind of the number one question for this team, given that they were ranked number 6 in the preseason, picked to win, the Big Ten, or at least, tie with Purdue, one of the national championship front runners, per the odds out in Vegas. Like it just hasn't happened. And I think just a major reason for that is, kind of overlooking who they lost. If you just look at what's happening at the professional ranks, you kind of see Wolverines doing good things all over the place. Potential rookie of the year in Franz Wagner. Even a guy down like Shawnee Brown, who's in the G League, but lighting it up. And you're like, wow, he was quite the sixth man. And Michigan's bench has been struggling. So it's like all these pieces that they had last year. The new faces haven't exactly replicated that, and it's no knock on them. In some cases many cases they're freshmen. In others, you've got a Devontae Jones who's a graduate transfer who's been, I think, I've been less critical of him than many. I think he's been serviceable there, but he's not someone who's gonna carry your team to victories. And at times, unfortunately, that's kind of what they've needed from the point guard spot, or at least a second banana to Hunter Dickinson. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons, none of them easy answers for why this team has struggled, but they certainly have not met expectations. Of course, there's a chance to turn that around here in these next few weeks.
Well, there absolutely is. And, at this stage of the season, you may as well say we're almost in mid-February, so teams can get hot. There's no doubt about it. But usually a team is what it is for the most part by this time of the season. Taking that into account, it's hard to see this Michigan team getting into the big dance right now, isn't it?
It is. I mean, just because of what I said of what I think they need to do. Like, if you start ranking, like, which are the easiest games on the schedule left. I mean, Rutgers, I think, is like the unanimous choice for easiest. But like when you start talking about what's next after that, I mean, okay, Iowa at home or Michigan State at home. I guess if you go by the net, like those aren't easy games. If you're talking about Michigan State, it's your second easiest game left. That's problematic. So yeah, but then at the other end, it's like, all right, the hardest is, I don't know, one of these road games here, Ohio State or Wisconsin, like talent-wise, I think Michigan can hang with them. So I don't know if you want to use, whether you want to use Michigan State, as I mentioned last year, as a case of look what can happen. You really don't need to be great. You just need to pick up some big wins like Michigan State did, beating Michigan to close the regular season. Or you want to point to the Michigan team of 2016-17 that was 4-6 in the Big Ten at one point and got super hot. And of course they earned the automatic bid by winning the Big Ten tournament. But yeah, that team got much better in basically this time and turn things around. Now just Michigan have that player, that guard, like that team did, Derek Walton Jr., that really did put the team on his back and could make 3-pointers off the dribble and get his teammates involved and all that. Like I don't know if I don't think Devontae Jones is that guy. I don't think Eli Brooks is that guy. They're both very good players, but not sure they're at that level. So is it just getting even more from Hunter Dickinson then? How much more can he give you? I don't know. So, I mean, these questions we're asking, they need to be answered by someone on this roster or someone to actually make it happen and get an NCAA tournament bid.
Well, final question before we let you get away, Andrew. The preseason expectations for Michigan were, of course, very high. I think number 4 it was maybe the highest they were ranked in those preseason magazines. And we know that's unrealistic before you even play a game. Still, do you think not making the NCAA tournament with this great class and what we had returning is a step backwards, a huge step backwards for the program?
It's a step backwards for sure. Again, those preseason rankings, and I'm one of the dopes who voted them, in the top 5, I think, in my preseason AP poll. They're based on the previous year. I mean, let's be honest. We can all try to assess what the freshmen will do and what transfers will do and all this, but it's a new team every year, especially for Michigan here. But yeah, I mean, I think it's more just about where the program has been. Now, we don't know exactly what would have happened, of course, in that 2020 season when, the postseason was canceled, but they were trending towards, a pretty safe inclusion in the field, at least. And then obviously, Big Ten champs and Elite Eight last year. And you go back to the Beeline years with, just 3 Sweet 16s in a row, including a national championship appearance. Like, yes, it would be a step back. But, you've got these highly touted freshmen that are here now that, if they stay, they're sophomores next year with another good class coming in. There's room to build on what you did this year, even if it was a disappointment. So, you hope it would be just, yes, one step back to then get right back to kind of where you were, next year. But no doubt it would be a disappointment. Forget what those outside the program thought they could do. Inside the program, they were talking, national championship, Big Ten championship as well. So absolutely, it would be disappointing if they failed to even qualify for the postseason tournament.
Oh, absolutely. They have a lot of opportunities, and those start this week at home, and then on the road next week with Wisconsin,
Iowa,
yeah. So they're going to have those opportunities. With us today has been beat writer Andrew Kahn from MLive. And Andrew, we appreciate you taking the time to join us, and we look forward to that next visit.
Happy to do it, Mike. Have a good one.
On Quick Hits today, the new defensive coordinator for Michigan will be Jesse Minter, who held the same position at Vanderbilt last year. He was also on the Ravens staff several years ago, so Jim named him the new DC on Wednesday. He also named co-offensive coordinators Matt Weiss and Sharon Moore, and they will take the place of Gaddis, who of course left last week. Coach Kim Barnes-Arico and the number 4 ranked Wolverines will be in East Lansing to take on the Spartans tonight, Thursday night. Then up to Evanston on Sunday to play Northwestern. We are 20-2 overall, 11-1 in Big Ten play. Hockey has a huge weekend series with the Spartans on tap. Friday evening, we hook up at Yost. Then Saturday, the action shifts to the LCA for the Duel in the D. It is a pivotal weekend as we trail Ohio State by 3 points in the standings. Coach Mel Pearson's team is 21-7-1 overall, 12-6 in Big Ten action. Number 3 ranked wrestling, 9-1, 4-1 in the Big Ten, will wrap up the Big Ten Conference portion of its schedule with 2 meets this weekend. The Wolverines will travel to Bloomington to take on Indiana at 7 p.m. on Friday, before hosting number 14 Michigan State at noon on Sunday at Cliff Keen Arena. Both duels will be streamed live on Big Ten+. Number 16 ranked softball will return to the annual USF Rawlings Invitational this weekend in Tampa, Florida, to kick off its 45th season of play. After a season of conference-only play last year, the Wolverines will open up against 4 non-conference opponents, facing Kansas at 10 a.m. and Illinois State at 12:30 p.m. on Friday, continuing against number 6 Florida, 1 p.m., and host South Florida at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, and wrapping up with a 9:30 a.m. game on Sunday against Kansas City. All games will be held at U.S. Softball Stadium. Baseball swings back into action next weekend in the College Baseball Showdown in Arlington, Texas. So it's great to have softball and baseball back. That does it for another busy week on the Michigan athletics scene. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine weekend, everyone. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue.
Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!